Well, there's a showdown over voter ID laws in the state of Texas. In order to prevent voter fraud, that state recently passed a bill that would bar anyone without some form of photo ID from voting in the elections there. Progressive groups have sued. A district court judge has blocked the law, saying it was racially discriminatory. An appeals court has just reversed that ruling, though, clearing the way for Texans to use the law in the elections next year. Kristen Clarke works for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, and she joins us now. Kristen, thanks a lot for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So one of the reasons I want to talk to you is I reject the underlying, because I think it's not factually supported, assumption of this conversation, which is that there are millions of Americans without photo IDs. I think it would be almost impossible to live in this country without a photo ID. You could not work. You could not get government benefits. You couldn't drive. You couldn't stay in a hotel. You could not buy cold medicine or nail polish in a lot of places. You could not fly on an airplane. I don't know how you could live, and I don't think there's any up-to-date study that shows that those numbers are real.
So let's talk about Texas's photo ID law, which is the most restrictive and stringent law of its kind on the books in the country. Now, this is not a state that said, bring any photo ID to the polls and you can vote. This is a state that has limited voting to people who have certain forms of ID, a passport, a driver's license, a conceal and carry permit. The problem is that
the same forms of ID that you would need to do any of the things I just listed.
No, the problem is that there are 4.5% of people in Texas, that white voters, black voters, Latino voters, who were disenfranchised the moment that they put this law on the books. And so that's why we filed our Voting Rights Act case.
Let me ask you a question, though. I don't think those numbers are not real, and that's why I wanted to talk to you tonight. I don't think the study shows that. And I know everyone repeats it like it's real. It's not real. Those people cannot make money or get money from the government or drive a car or do anything in American life. And you say 4.5% of the population of Texas can't get any income at all? Like, how does that work?
600,000 people who are disenfranchised the moment they put this law on the books.
But it's a very simple question. If you're an adult in the state of Texas and you don't have a government photo ID, you can't have a job and you can't get any benefits. You can't participate in any meaningful way in our life. I don't know how you feed yourself. So what are these people doing?
So 5 courts up at this point have found this law to be discriminatory. 5 courts have found it to be discriminatory.
I keep hearing this,
One of the experts that we introduced in the court is Dr. Stephen Ansel-Lebert, and I have a copy of his report for you. What he did was he looked at the election administration database, and he looked at the state and federal ID databases and cross-compared and found that there were 600,000 people in Texas who were registered but didn't have one of the limited forms of ID that are required.
They may not have had them with them, which is very different from not having them. You can go home and get it. But you're ignoring my question, which is, are there really millions of people who don't have photo ID? And you know the answer is no, there aren't, because there can't be.
There are 600,000 people who don't have a conceal and carry permit or passport
people have a driver's license or a passport, or else they can't live in this country. So here's my question. Is it racist to require a photo ID to get a job or stay in a hotel or buy a gun or fly on a plane?
No.
So why is it racist to ask when you vote?
The right to vote is the most important right in our democracy. And we don't need to erect hurdles and barriers that make it harder for ordinary Americans to vote. And what Texas's law did was it knocked out people on the margins, the poorest.
There's no evidence of that. And in fact, you've seen in a number of states, 2 cycles ago, when Obama was elected, you saw a couple of states pass voter ID laws, and the voter participation rate among minority voters went up.
But Texas is a different story. Well, this is a state where courts have found that state officials are acting with discriminatory intent. Whether we're talking about redistricting or the photo ID
all of this is predicated on the idea that there are huge numbers of people without government photo ID. And we would at least concede that that's insulting to our intelligence. They don't actually exist because you can't live in America if you don't have government-issued photo ID.
Sadly, 4.5%, this is not a made-up number.
It is
4.5% of people in Texas function without a passport or a driver's license.
No, okay, now you're being too specific. Without government photo ID, How do you live? How do you get money? How do you get food?
Well,
how do you go outside?
That's why we
I don't understand.
That's why we've been fighting this voting rights battle for the last 3 years, and we've been winning.
What about the Second Amendment guarantees your right to have arms? Do you think it's bigoted to require photo ID?
Well, this case is not about the Second Amendment. It's about the right to vote. It's about the right to vote.
Those numbers are
and
untrue,
taking down the barriers that stand in the way of ordinary Americans who want to have their voices heard.
No, that's true. I appreciate it. I just disagree with the premise.